Oh, yes. Nice. Janavi Tatavane Jagamanalobha Nikate Advaita Srini Vasa Chatradara Nikate Advaita Srini Vasa Chatradara Posi Achigora Chan Radna Singhasane Bosi Yachigora Chan Radna Singhasane Arati Korin Brahma Adi Devagane Arati Korin Brahma Adi Devagane Nara Hari Adi Kori Chamaradulaya Nara Hari Adi Kori Chamaradulaya Sanjaya Mukunda Basu Koshadiyaya Sanjaya Mukunda Basu Koshadiyaya Shankar Bhaje Ganta Bhaje Bhaje Karatala Shankar Bhaje Ganta Bhaje Bhaje Karatala Madhura Mridanga Bhaje Paramarasala Madhura Mridanga Bhaje Paramarasala Bahu Koti Chandra Jini Vadana Ujwala Bahu Koti Chandra Jini Vadana Ujwala Galadeshe Banamala Kore Jalamala Galadeshe Banamala Kore Jalamala Shiva Shukanarada Preme Gada Gada Shiva Shukanarada Preme me gada gada. Bhakti vinoda dekhe Gaurara sampada. Bhakti vinoda dekhe Gaurara sampada. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatyadeshatarine. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Jaya Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Shata Shishimad A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajacharya Ashtotara Shata Shishimad Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shamakund Radha Kund Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Mathura Dham Ki Jai. Jagannath Puri Dham Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulasi Devi Ki Jai. Yamuna Mai Ki Jai, Ganga Mai Ki Jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga.
Now we'll do Narasimha Pranams. Pralada Lada Daine Hiranyakashi Purvakshaha Shilatangana Kahalaye Ito Nrasimha Parato Nrasingho
Yato yato yami tato nrsimha. Bahe nrsimho hridaye nrsimho. Nrsimhamadim sharanam prapade. Tavakara kamalavare nakam adbhuta shringam dalita hiranyakashipu tanubringam keshavadrita narahari rupa jai jagadish hare jai jagadish hare jai jagadish hare. Tavakara kamalavare nakam abhuta shringam dalita hiranyakashipur tanubringam keshavadrita narahari rupa jai jagadish hare jai jagadish hare jai jagadish hare. Lord Nrsimhadev ki jai, Prahlad Maharaj ki jai. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Damayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So today we'll be beginning from chapter 3, text number 37. Chapter 3, text 37. We'll chant the Sanskrit in unison. That means everybody together. And then we'll chant this translation in unison. That means everybody together out loud. And then we'll go to the next text and we'll do 11 texts. Okay? So chapter number 3 and text 37. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kama Esha Krodha Esha Rajo Guna Samudbhava Mahashano Mahapapma Vidhenam Ihavairanam. The Blessed Lord said, "It is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material modes of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world." Text 38. Dhumenavriyate vanir yathadarsho malena cha yatholbenavrito garbhas tathate nedam avritam. As the fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by the womb, similarly the living entity is covered by different degrees of this lust. Text 39. Avritam jnanam etena jnanino nitya vairena kamarupena kaunteya dushpurena nalena cha. Thus a man's pure consciousness is covered by his eternal enemy in the form of lust, which is never satisfied and which burns like fire. Text 40. Indriyani mano buddhir asyadishtanam uchyate itarvi mohayatyesha jnanam avritya dehinam. The senses, the mind, and the intelligence are the sitting places of this lust, which veils the real knowledge of the living entity and bewilders him. Text 41. Tasmat tvang indriyan yadao niyamya bharatarshabha bhatmanam prajahiyenam jnana vijnana nashanam. Therefore, O Arjuna, best of the Bharatas, in the very beginning curb this great symbol of sin, lust, by regulating the senses, and slay this destroyer of knowledge and self-realization. Text 42. Indriyani paranyahur indriyebhya param manah manastu parabudhir yo buddhe paratastu saha. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind, and he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. Text 43. Evam buddhe param buddha sangstabhyatmanam atmana jahi shratum mahabaho kamarupang durasadam. Thus, knowing oneself to be transcendental to material senses, mind, and intelligence, one should control the lower self by the higher self, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. Chapter 4. So we did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay. Text 1. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Imang Vivasvate Yogam Proktavan Aham Avyayam Vivasvan Manave Praha Manor Ikshvakave Bravit. The Blessed Lord said, I instructed this imperishable science of yoga to the sun god, Vivasvan, and Vivasvan instructed it to Manu, the father of mankind, and Manu in turn instructed it to Ikshvaku. Text 2. Evam bharambhara praptam imam rajarshayo viduhu sakale neha mahata yogo nashta parantapa. The supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. Text 3. Sa eva yam mayatyedya yoga prokta puratanaha bhaktosi me sakha cheti rahasyam yetaruttamam. That very ancient science of the relationship with the Supreme is today told by me to you, because you are my devotee as well as my friend. Therefore you can understand the transcendental mystery of this science. Text 4, final text. Arjuna uvacha aparam bhavato janma param janma vivasvataha katam etad vijnaniyam tang adhau proktavhan iti. Arjuna said, the sun god Vivasvan is senior by birth to you. How am I to understand that in the beginning you instructed this science to him? Okay, so now we'll read the purports with the translations. So, Bhakti Alexander, would you like to start? You can also do the Sanskrit to practice a little bit. We can do the Sanskrit too. Shri Bhagavan.
Testing. It's not working.
But to hold it the first time?
Oh.
And it should light up and show the numbers.
Testing.
So then maybe you can check that side. So I can go ahead and read it for the time being. We'll get the mics going and everyone can take a turn. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha Kama Esha Krodha Esha Rajoguna Samudbhava Mahashano Mahapapma Vidhyenam Ihavairinam. The Blessed Lord said, "It is lust only, Arjuna, which is born of contact with the material modes of passion and later transformed into wrath, and which is the all-devouring sinful enemy of this world." Purport. When a living entity comes in contact with the material creation, his eternal love for Krishna is transformed into lust, in association with the mode of passion. Or, in other words, the sense of love of God becomes transformed into lust, as milk in contact with sour tamarind is transformed into yogurt. Then again, when lust is unsatisfied, it turns into wrath. Wrath is transformed into illusion, and illusion continues the material existence. Therefore, lust is the greatest enemy of the living entity, and it is lust only which induces the pure living entity to remain entangled in the material world. Wrath is the manifestation of the mode of ignorance. These modes exhibit themselves as wrath and other corollaries. If, therefore, the modes of passion, instead of being degraded into the modes of ignorance, are elevated to the modes of goodness by the prescribed method of living and acting, then one can be saved from the degradation of wrath by spiritual attachment. The Supreme Personality of Godhead expanded himself into many for his ever-increasing spiritual bliss, and the living entities are parts and parcels of this spiritual bliss. They also have partial independence, but by misuse of their independence, when the service attitude is transformed into the propensity for sense enjoyment, they come under the sway of lust. This material creation is created by the Lord to give a facility to the conditioned souls to fulfill these lustful propensities. And when they are completely baffled by prolonged lustful activities, the living entities begin to inquire about their real position. This inquiry is the beginning of the Vedanta Sutras, wherein it is said, "Athato Brahma Jigyasa," one should inquire into the Supreme. And the Supreme is defined in Srimad Bhagavatam as Janmad Yasya Yato Nyavad Itaretash Cha, or, quote, "The origin of everything is the Supreme Brahman." Therefore, the origin of lust is also in the Supreme. If, therefore, lust is transformed into love for the Supreme, or transformed into Krishna consciousness, or in other words, desiring everything for Krishna, then both lust and wrath can be spiritualized. Hanuman, the great servitor of Lord Rama, engaged his wrath upon his enemies for the satisfaction of the Lord. Therefore, lust and wrath, when they are employed in Krishna consciousness, become our friends instead of our enemies. So, one of the ways that we can transform our lust and wrath in a healthy way is to try to improve our service to Krishna. Try to always do better service. In the material world, we're always trying to have better sense pleasure, and in spiritual life, we always try to render better service. Then another way we can engage our lust and wrath is to, part of that, or one of the aspects of doing better service is sharing Krishna consciousness more enthusiastically, or doing any of our services more enthusiastically, but specifically sharing Krishna consciousness with others. And the wrath part of it is a type of a hatred which is found within most of us. And that hatred has to be purified by connection with the enemies of the Lord's mission. So we actually connect our wrathful nature not to the devotees, right, who Krishna says are always like saints, even if they have bad habits, right? Even if they have bad habits, even until the end of life, even. Krishna says, actually they're sadhus, they're saints. But, so we never want to employ our wrath towards them, but we always want to employ our wrath towards the ignorance of we want to employ our wrath towards Maya, towards illusion. And therefore we do book distribution, and we do Harinam, and we share prasadam with enthusiasm. Why? Because we hate ignorance. We hate forgetfulness of Krishna. You know? We actually, we can even go as far as to say that we hate the demoniac mentality of people who offend Krishna and offend the Lord. We hate their demoniac mentality. We hate their ignorance. And therefore we dispel it, right? We dispel it with tact and enthusiasm, sensitivity, right? We have to be careful about how we express our hatred towards ignorance, right? And one of the most powerful ways is through writing the truth. That's a very important way how to dovetail our hatred or our wrath in Krishna consciousness, is to actually share the truth, right? Because the truth will slay stronger than any other weapon the ignorance in our hearts, our own hearts and the hearts of others who are under the sway of ignorance. The sword of knowledge. So if we share knowledge with them, as much as they're able to take, or as much as they want to hear it, then that'll be the greatest attack against Maya. Therefore, transcendental book distribution. Right? That's why. Because knowledge is the most powerful weapon against this enemy of lust. Right? So, those are some of my points. Does anybody want to share something on this verse or purport? So we can read the next one. Did you have something? Prabhu, would you be able to get the mic to work? Can you go and get it? You may have to raise the volume on the system. Not the main one, number two. Number two. Number two. It's not that side. Yeah. Okay, good.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Yeah. So, Bhakta Alexander, did you want to add something to the conversation? You wanted to ask something? Okay, so let's read then. You read the next one. You can start with the Sanskrit.
Yeah, so I was just making sure I didn't have a question. No,
Okay.
I don't. Okay. Yeah, text 38. Dumena vriyate vanir yatadarsho malena cha yato benarvito garbhas tata tenidam avritam. As fire is covered by smoke, as a mirror is covered by dust, or as the embryo is covered by the womb, similarly, the living entity is covered by different degrees of this lust. Purport: there are 3 degrees of covering of the living entity by which his pure consciousness is obscured. This covering is but lust under different manifestations, like smoke in the fire, dust on the mirror, in the womb about the embryo. When lust is compared to smoke, it is understood that the fire of the living spark can be a little perceived. In other words, when the living entity exhibits his Krishna consciousness slightly, he may be likened to the fire covered by smoke. Although fire is necessary where there is smoke, there is no overt manifestation of fire in the early stage. This stage is like the beginning of Krishna consciousness. The dust on the mirror refers to a cleansing process of the mirror of the mind by so many spiritual methods. The best process is to chant the holy names of the Lord, the holy names of the Lord. The embryo covered by the womb is an analogy illustrating a helpless position, for the child in the womb is so helpless that he cannot even move. This stage of living condition can be compared to that of the trees. The trees are also living entities, but they have been put in such a condition of life by such a great exhibition of lust that they are almost void of all consciousness. The covered mirror is compared to the birds and beasts, and the smoke-covered fire is compared to the human being. In the form of a human being, the living entity may receive a little Krishna consciousness, and if he makes further development, the fire of spiritual life can be kindled in the human form of life. By careful handling of the smoke in the fire can be made to blaze. Therefore, the human form of life is a chance for the living entity to escape the entanglement of material existence. In the human form of life, one can conquer the enemy, lust, by cultivation of Krishna consciousness under able guidance.
You have a question, Prabhu?
My question is, did you say that writing is a good way to dispel ignorance earlier?
Yes. Prabhupada attacked Maya very viciously with these purports. So he's like, that's a way that the devotees of the Lord, they hate ignorance. I mean, it's kind of interesting. It's like this. Forgetfulness of Krishna means that they're, especially persons who are Mayavadis or who actually blaspheme Krishna and say, no, there is no Krishna actually. I am also Krishna even. Or Krishna doesn't exist at all. Actually, there's just zero. There's just a nirvana. Nothing exists. That type of behavior means that the devotee who loves Krishna, he says, how can you say that about my Krishna? And then he becomes like a fire. Why? Because that guy's talking nonsense, right? That guy's talking nonsense is actually taking these innocent people who are like children and throwing them down and attacking them. Because when somebody speaks some Mayavadi philosophy and they look like a very good person, and then everyone says, yes, he's good. And then all the innocent people who are not very learned or thoughtful, they say, yes, he's a very good man. And what is their philosophy is actually taking him down, down, down. Because if somebody offends Krishna by decrying his personality, right, their destination is very dark. There's no hope for bhakti. There's no hope for bhakti, and bhakti is the only way to stop the cycle of birth and death. So they must go down. They must be under control of lust. So a good way to deal with the natural propensity to have wrath is to fight ignorance. And they say the pen is mightier than the sword. Or, and the Sankirtan, the weapons of the Sankirtan movement are the books, the prasadam, the secret weapon, and, the kirtan, of course, our elaborate deity worship is also a type of weapon. It's attacking from a different angle also, you know? Yes.
Hare Krishna. So Prabhu, that means that those who are like anyone who teaches about the impersonal Brahman, ideally they are taking the person away from Krishna, but that does also mean that they are taking person downwards. Like at least in a spiritual sense, they are accepting the fact about the universal whole, right? So they are talking about the impersonal form of God, but can we consider that they're taking a person away towards a downward trajectory of life?
Yeah. Unfortunately, what happens is because they have no bhakti, then they just do all karma. And because the best you can do in this Kali Yuga is so much ugra karma, you know, it's like everything we do is contaminated. Everything we do has loads and heaps of sin in it. Everything. Even just to live a normal life nowadays means so much sin is actually coming on my account. Why? Because everything I wear is produced in an improper way, and it's transported in an improper way, right? All the resources that are collected are it's all sinful, right? Yeah, go ahead.
And one thing we learned from, I think it may have been this chapter, it may have been last chapter, but the verse about how, or the idea that, you know, because even plants have souls, you know, even if it's a vegetarian dish, if it's not offered to the Lord, it's sinful eating. So even if the quote-unquote ingredients to the things we do in life are good, if it's not offered to the Lord, it's still sinful.
Right. This is the higher definition of sin, you know, is that if it isn't offered to Krishna, then it's a sense gratification, and it is missing the mark of the spiritual standard. It may be within the material sphere, it may be good. So this is the idea, is that the impersonalists, they fail to purify the hearts of their disciples. So what happens is they may temporarily be refraining from sin because of some morale teachings, right? Or impersonalistic teachings. They may refrain from certain sins. But because the heart didn't get cleansed by bhakti, then their heart is dirty still, so Krishna will know that, and he'll say, well, let me give you the next body just like that you want. And then when they go to that body, then they may not have the chance again. And if they get mixed up with the karma and all these things. So, yeah.
So, just to add to what you told, impersonalists are more like, they follow dry philosophy. So, they do not have something actually tangibly to hang upon. So, even the sense control what is prescribed is quite dry. For example, even devotees also practice sense control, but it is linked with Krishna. So, we have something tangible put in place. So, talk of Prashadam, we take only something which is offered to Krishna. So, even in this perspective also there is sense control, but it is, as mentioned earlier, it is tinged or hooked around Krishna. So that makes it much more meaningful and long lasting. Can we say that?
Very nicely put. Yes. So the original question from Jagannath Prabhu was, writing deals with wrath. So specifically, when we know the absolute truth, or we repeat what our spiritual master has said, and we share that message with others, then we attack. We attack at the foundation of ignorance. We attack. And, we can also dovetail our wrath, our anger, by sharing the writings of somebody who, is an authority. So therefore, if we do book distribution, then that is a perfect way to deal with our anger. And it is important not to, Prabhupada made a comment, we should learn to be a lion at home. We should learn to be a lamb at home and a lion on the chase. On the chase. Meaning, when we're doing our preaching work, right, we can be vigorous. We can use some of that emotional, that passion, that anger, even that wrath, and say, I will, sacrifice for giving this knowledge. Not that we force it on people, right? But it's the idea is that there can be some intensity, some rawness to that endeavor. No, I will go out and show these people the books, and I will, get their attention, and, I will try. Basically, it doesn't mean that's like what we're speaking about in the morning. It's an expertness. It's that you can be a lion and at the same time a gentleman. You can be a lion and also a gentleman. That's the higher level. Is inside, you're fighting Maya. And outside, you're dealing with them in a very respectful way, which, not that they go away and they say, who are these guys? No, they say, this is very nice. I like this thing. I like these people, these Hare Krishna people. I like them. I didn't buy them today, but I like them actually. And actually we can see that in Kansas City, that's been happening, We do our work, we try to do it as gentlemen, but as lions at the same time, right? And people like us. Even though we don't know them, they know us. It's actually true. So, and when they know us and they have a good feeling about us, they say, yes, it is nice. Prabhupada has described, that means that is the saving their life. That's saving their life. That feeling, that appreciation means they will not have to take another human, some animal birth and all this. By the public. Yeah. Prabhupada I just read the quote just a few days ago, he spoke about it. So anyway, Prabhupada also writes, I think it's in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that writing is for self-purification. Right? Writing is for self-purification. Because people like Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he's saying, who am I? I'm like a worm in the stool. But he said, the Vaishnavas have ordered me to do this service. And for my own purification, and for the glorification of the Lord, then I will execute it. So, this point about able guidance, that was the last thing that Bhakti Alexander read. It says, in the human form of life, one can conquer the enemy. What is it? What's the enemy? Lust. Right? By cultivation of Krishna consciousness under able guidance. So that goes back to that. So then, we know Prabhupada wanted, we know he wanted this book distribution, vigorous book distribution, at the same time with tact and grace. And he wanted his disciples to write. And he wanted it that, somebody writes, then you should show it to their seniors, their counselors, and those persons can see. This person is actually understanding the philosophy. And Prabhupada wrote many times that he wanted his disciples to write for the Back to Godhead magazine to share Krishna consciousness with others, to share their realizations. So we should, if we're interested in that, then we can take it up. But we can be connected with the writing process by sharing the books of people who have been authorized to write. So we'll never be bereft of that ability, And therefore we generally share the books of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada with great enthusiasm, because we know these words are the sharpest of weapons against ignorance. So anyway, on this verse here, we have the three examples of the fire covered by the smoke, which is likened to the human being. The smoke is there, and the fire is inside, right? But the smoke is there, and it's kind of the most thin of the veils. Then there's the tree, or rather, there's the mirror covered by the dust, right? And then there's the tree covered by, or the womb, the embryo covered by the womb. So this one here, it says, the three, it says, the covered mirror is compared to the birds and beasts, and the smoke-covered fire is compared to the human being. And then the embryo covered by the womb is compared to which one? Trees. So we have different degrees of lust. If somebody was very, very lusty, then they will get into the situation where they go all the way down to the tree forms of life. Right? And below, actually, even the trees are the aquatics. And very, very dull. Very dull. Very dull. Not completely, still sentient. The soul is within, but the covering is so strong, right? The lust was so thick that now the consciousness, their pure consciousness, is very much shielded. What is it? Diluted, you could say. Another example is the lampshade. If the lampshade is very, very thick, then no light comes out through the shade, it just comes through the bottom. Yes. Jagannath Prabhu?
So we've heard that lust also means a desire to enjoy something in the material world. So this can mean anyone from a big eater and up until, a murderer. So I'm just wondering, do all these people become trees? What is the determining factor that makes someone either a tiger or a pig or a tree?
It's very complex. But you're onto something, that the laws of karma are very intricate. And ultimately, the Lord will satisfy our desires. It said, Nityo nityanam chaitanas chaitananam eko bahunam yo vidadhati kaman. That He is that one person who's satisfying the desires of all the persons. And that means that if we want it, then He's going to give us a body for that. So that was mentioned in the previous purport, is that we get the opportunity, right? In this material world, it says in the previous purport, this material creation is created by the Lord to give a facility to the conditioned souls to fulfill these lustful propensities. And when they are completely baffled by prolonged lustful activities, the living entities begin to inquire about their real position. So the idea is that it's not very easy for us to know. And actually, it's something that the demigods, that's their duty, is to answer your question. So us on this us on this earthly human platform, it's not possible to know the intricacies of karma, but it is possible to know the principles. So as was mentioned, we have to take prasadam, right? Then we don't deal with the lusty food. We don't get any karma from the food, right? And then at a certain point, right, our lustful propensities are rooted out even more on the subtle levels. So then we're taking prasadam, but we may be still engaging on satisfying the demands of the tongue, and we're just eating because it tastes nice, right? That one is one that is mentioned as one of the subtleties. It's the principle is that if we always take prasadam, then eventually, right, with work and effort and a lot of chanting Hare Krishna, which is the most important way to cleanse the heart, right? Then, at a certain point, then we'll just take the prasadam just to make Krishna happy. Even though I'm getting some pleasure, I only take it just to make him happy, not because it's tasting good for me or it's tasting bad for me. So we can understand that we have some long way to go. So basically, if we're sinful, if we're in the human form of life, then we can get karma. And when we act in different ways under the modes of material nature, and then we associate with different modes, then what will happen is if we have been in the mode of passion, or if we've been mostly in the mode of ignorance, then we'll go down to the animal species. We've been mostly in the mode of passion, then we'll stay in the human species. And then if we're mostly in the mode of goodness, or earthly human species, and then if we are in the mode of goodness, then we'll go up to the demigod level, heavenly planets. But in this age of Kali, without Krishna consciousness, everybody's pretty much going down to hell. And then when they go to hell, then they'll get conditioned, depending on their karma, to be ready to take a birth in one of the species of life. So they have to go there, then they get trained up how to be a tree, and then they enter into the tree body, right? After they suffer a lot. So on this purport, I thought of a few things. I thought that, obviously, Prabhupada says, the best process, let's see here, the dust on the mirror refers to a cleansing process of the mirror of the mind by so many spiritual methods. The best process is to chant the holy names of the Lord. So it's very clear there. That chanting has to be learned from the spiritual master. And it's an intricate process which actually encapsulates our entire life. It's not just the chanting. The offenses to the chanting actually happen at the rest of the times of the day also. Right? So the spiritual master is training us in how to become free from offenses, so that every time we chant, we're chanting purely with pure love and devotion. And it doesn't just happen overnight, and we can't not chant even though we're not chanting purely yet. Some may say, no, I don't chant because I only want to chant purely. Well, part of the process to chant purely, given by the acharyas, is to chant now, start chanting now, and start working on your purity also. Right? Like that. So another thing that I thought about was the trees. The trees, right? They were such a great exhibition of lust that they are almost void of all consciousness. So that one of those examples is the example of Manigriva and Nalakuvara. So these two demigod sons of Kuvera were very lusty, and they were enjoying alcohol, and they were swimming naked with ladies. And when Narada Muni came, they were too belligerent to cover their privates and everything. You know? Too indecent. So Narada Muni gave him a curse to become trees. He said, "You like to be naked? Okay. Stand as a tree." And then they were rectified, actually, because they got to see Krishna. And actually, they were killed by Krishna, practically speaking. The mortar was pulled, and they were huge trees. Arjuna trees are so strong. They have super strong roots. It's unheard of to uproot an Arjuna tree, because they have super, super deep roots. It's like, that's their design, So anyway, they knocked down, and then they were liberated, and then they became pure devotees, and they prayed to Krishna to always be every part of themselves. They said, "Let me engage my ears in hearing. Let me engage my nose in smelling the flowers offered to you. Let me engage my tongue in the prasadam, my arms in working for you, and my voice in speaking your glories, and my mind in your pastimes." And they have awesome prayers. Anyway, so that was one example there about the lusty people becoming the trees. And then there's also a picture in the Bhagavad Gita about that. There's some lady who's posing without any clothes on, and then the next life she gets to be a tree. So then the human form of life. There's another example, which is of Jad Bharat. So Bharat Maharaj is a very famous king of the whole emperor of the world, actually. And when he was sufficiently inspired, he actually gave up his kingdom and he went to the forest for meditation and yoga. Actually, he was doing bhakti yoga at that time. He was a devotee, and he was in the stage of bhava, which is a very high stage of devotional service, otherwise known as the 8th stage of devotional service, or rather the 8th stage of developing pure love for Krishna. So he's very high, and in that stage, right, he got attracted to protecting a deer. And he became very affectionate towards this deer, and he got his false ego involved, and he said, "No, I am the protector. I have to protect this deer. This deer is helpless, and if I don't protect this deer, then, So he got recontaminated by association with this sense object, even though it practically seems harmless. He stopped his whole yoga, he stopped all of his bhakti, and he started just being obsessed with the deer. Right? And then, by Krishna's arrangement, he became a deer, but he could remember everything. So then what happened is, he was in the forest as a deer, but he found some sages who were living in the forest, and he would go there and listen to them talking about Srimad Bhagavatam and so on and so forth. As a deer. And actually, we just heard this morning about this rabbit that would always like to come and hear the Bhagavatam. Rochandev was telling us that there's somewhere in the world right now, there's a rabbit that comes for Bhagavatam class. That's what he was talking about. Yeah. It involves Indrayumna Swami. They were telling him, yeah, he comes every day for Bhagavatam class. He comes here. And he said, what are you talking? And then he noticed actually there was one bunny there. And they gave him a name, something like Sri Bhagavan something, you know. He has a devotee name also they gave him. I don't know if he can wear the tilak yet. What? Yes. Can you speak in that mic?
So, Bharat Maharaj in his previous life, while he was a human being, he consciously was attached to the deer. So, therefore, he got a deer body in the next life.
Right.
So, the first life was because of his own choices what he made. But when he became a deer, his inspiration to associate with the sages, was it driven by Lord's desire for that to happen? Because like how did Bharat Maharaj as a deer remember about the past life and then wanted to associate with the sages, being animal? So was it because of the mercy of Lord of Bharat Maharaj penance what he did in his past life? Is it something linked with it?
Of course, it has to be. Yeah, normally when you become a deer, you forget everything. You just be a deer. But so definitely his mercy, but then he used his free will. He was given an extraordinarily rare opportunity to exercise an amount of free will, which was, in the deer form, and he chose right. He remembered, no, I want Krishna, I want bhakti. So he went and he heard, and maybe he even got some other services somehow, by their association. But he went and he heard, and then he got Jud Bharat's life, meaning he became he became a human again, but he pretended like he was an idiot. And the idea is he had the human form of life, and he knew the value, and he said, I'm not gonna mess this one up. I'm going back home. So we have to develop that type of determination to do whatever it takes to become pure devotees and go back to Godhead. Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. All glories to the Sama devotees.